Okay, before I start today's GameEx Arcade Edition setup guide for Windows PC, if you like what you see today, hit notifications, subscribe and like so you don't miss out on upcoming retro emulation content that I release almost every day on my channel, Just Jamie. That means you'll get notified every time I release a new setup guide and even some long play videos, and it also helps out my channel too. So yesterday I uploaded GameEx Standard Edition as requested by one of my subscribers, and it was very popular. So today we're going to be doing GameEx Arcade Edition. So for those of you who realizes now what GameEx is, you've got everything in there as a multimedia package of video playback, movie playback, radio, pretty much everything. So GameEx Arcade Edition is going to strip back all those unessential things to just get us straight into arcade gaming. So we're going to go over to the GameEx website, and you can find it just here, GameEx Arcade Edition. Now to use this, you don't need anything else. This is literally a standalone piece of software. So if we just go into this, we'll just scroll down and you can see just here, this is particularly good for people wanting to build arcade cabinet, especially for lower resolution 640 by 480. So if you're using something like a CRT TV for your arcade gaming, then the Arcade Edition is pretty much set up for you. Now it says just here it was submitted back in 2016, but it actually had an update April just gone. So download this file and you're going to download GameEx Arcade Edition executable setup. If we just double left click, and first of all we need to select our language, so drop down, I'm going to use English. Okay, and I accept the agreement. Next thing we need to do is determine where this is going to install to. Now for me, this is going to create a new folder on my desktop called Arcade. So I'm going to leave this as default. If you want to install this anywhere else, just go to Browse and then select a location. So what we're going to do is go to Next, and we're just going to wait for this to install. Okay, so once that's finished doing this thing, what we're going to do is just leave Setup GameEx Arcade Edition checked and just go to Finish. This is going to bring up GameEx Wizard, and just remember, GameEx Wizard is where we can do everything, which is going to appear in the front end. So what we're going to do is just go through the standard procedure of setting everything up. So we're going to select Basic, which should be checked by default. We're going to go to Next. Next up, select text in language. So obviously again for me, this is going to be English. Underneath custom text, we're going to just bypass this and go to Next. Next up, we want to enable sound effects to really give you that arcade sound, and we also got the option here to play ambience. So like it says, enable and play background ambience if file exists. So just leave this to no or put it to yes. I'm going to personally put this to no as standard. Go to Next, and we're also going to go to Next on GameEx Online. Automatic artwork download. So what we're going to do is head over to MU Movies and sign up, and once you've done that, pop in your user ID and your password in here and make sure enabled is turned to yes. This is going to get us artwork for our games. Once we're inside of the front end, we're going to go to Next after this, and video recording, we're going to leave this as it is and just go to Next. Okay, next up we got MAME settings, so let's prepare this. What I'm going to do is just minimize that window, and on my desktop I got a MAME ROM set just here. What I'm going to do is go into my arcades folder, which GameEx Arcade Edition just set up for me. If I go into the GameEx Arcade Edition folder, in here I'm going to create a new folder, so right click on the empty space, new folder, and I'm going to call this folder ROMs. And in the ROMs folder, I'm going to just drag and drop that main folder inside, which contains my main games. Okay, next thing I'm going to do under ROM path is just backspace the location in there, and I'm going to go to the end just there, select folder, and I'm going to point this into the direction of where I've just put my main game. So from desktop, I'm going to go down to ROMs and make sure MAME is highlighted. Once it's highlighted, we can go to OK, and as we can see, that's now just set the correct path in place. From here on, that's going to go to next. And emulator selection. So what we're going to do is go to the right hand side panel, and I'm going to highlight that and go to the center, add emulator. I'm going to left click on this. Default path. So what we need to do is point this into the correct location. So it's already done it for me. This is going to go into my GameEx Arcade Edition folder, which is of course on my desktop, into an emulation folder and into an emulators folder. And I also need to make sure that the ROM path is correct as well. So right now this just says ROMs. What I do need to do is go to select folder, and I need to make sure this is in the absolutely correct place. So go to arcade, and if I then scroll to ROMs, I'm going to make sure this is pointing into that main folder. I'm then going to go to OK and OK. Do you want to download this emulator? Yes. And do you want to download the database? Yes. Okay, and as we can see on the left hand side panel, we've now got MAME. Now what we're going to do is go to the bottom here and go to next. Now start page name. What happens when we open up the front end itself? We're going to find arcade in brackets and MAME. What I'm going to do is just clean this up and just backspace the arcade, which is in brackets, and also I'm going to take away MAME as well. Now we got two paths here. Again, we need to make sure these are configured in pointing into the right place. So first of all, I'm going to make sure that the ROM path is absolutely correct, and by the looks of it, it's not. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just backspace ROM path, and if I minimize this window, I'm going to go to the arcade folder, and I'm going to actually manually get the location of my main ROM set. So if I go down to ROMs, MAME, and here we go. We can delete this main folder just here, which is created. We don't need that. What we are going to do is if we left click on the search bar at the top, right click on it, copy, and then we're going to go back to the setup wizard, and under ROM path, I can then paste in that location. And we're also going to change working path. So what we need to do is make sure this is pointing into the folder of where MAME is. Now again, if we go to the arcades folder, into the emulation folder, emulators, MAME, and here we go. This is MAME, and this is what GameEx Arcade Edition is just downloaded us. So we can manually get the directory for this. So just go to the top search bar, and we're going to right click and copy that. Go back into the GameEx setup wizard, and under working path, we're just going to backspace and paste in that location. So this is absolutely guaranteed now that these are set up in the correct locations. Now we got other parts of this which we don't need to configure. Logo path, video snaps in, box art, that type of thing. If you sign up with MU Movies, it will automatically download all your artwork for you. So this isn't necessary. If you do want to know how to set up your own artwork, then check out my MAME emulation setup guide, and I'll leave a link in the description for that. We're going to go to next, and online game services we're not going to bother with. Let's go to next, and finally verify setup. If I go to verify at the bottom left, and here we go, and we're going to go to next and finish. Okay, first of all, we are going to open up GameEx Arcade Edition. If we go into the arcades folder, and we're going to look for the shortcut, because when we installed this, it didn't create one. So what I'm going to do is right click on GameEx.exe, show more options, and from here I'm going to go to send to desktop create shortcut. Now, for me, it's going to say shortcut with a 2 in bracket. And the reason why is because I've still got yesterday's GameEx on here, as we can see just here. So if you've not used GameEx before and you've just created that shortcut, you won't see 2 in brackets. So let's open this up. Okay, so we're finally in, and if we just scroll down, we're going to find all games. We got original games, multiplayer games, vector games, and this is the good thing about GameEx Arcade Edition, is that you won't see this in the regular GameEx. So let's just go down and select something here. We're going to go to the MAME folder. And I've got my Xbox controller set up, and this is through Bluetooth, and it's working just fine. Okay, and as we can see now, I've had to reboot the system. What you're going to find the next time you boot up GameEx Arcade Edition, you're going to notice that it's beginning to download artwork, and that's emumovies, which I've got set up when I was going through the setup wizard. So we're just going to leave this, and this is going to download the artwork. Okay, so after a few minutes, you'll likely see an update list like I've got just here. So what I'm going to do is press B on my Xbox controller to confirm this, or you can press enter on your keyboard. And it's going to start updating things. Okay, cool. So everything's been downloaded by the seams of it, which is very quick. And everything's been updated. So as we can see, and as the GameEx Arcade Edition said, it looks a lot like Hyperspin. So before we actually get into playing games, let me just give you a little bit of a tip. If we just exit out of this, I'm going to press escape. Now, if you find at this point your games don't boot up, let me just give you a heads up. If we go back into the setup wizard, so back into the arcades folder, GameEx Arcade Edition, what we're going to do is open up the wizard again. So if we just scroll down until we find the wizard, setup wizard, what we're going to do here is just go to MAME settings. Just here, if you find your games aren't working, it's quite likely things have been changed as you went through the process of setting things up. So just make sure that the main path and the ROM path are absolutely set up to the right locations. And remember, you can change the locations here just by going to select folder, and the main path is going to be just here. So emulators, MAME, okay. And once you put the main path into place, you'll see that MAME exe will automatically detect underneath. And like I say, just remember the ROM path is in the absolute correct location, otherwise your games aren't going to work. So once you've done this, we can then just go to close. And if we now open up GameEx again, okay, so game's booting just fine. What we need to do is actually set up the controls for this so things is going to work. If I just exit, what I need to do is go back into the arcades folder, and I need to open up MAME outside of GameEx. Remember, GameEx is just there to make things look nice, but all our configurations is literally going to go inside the emulator itself. So into the emulation folder, emulators, MAME. And if we open up MAME, which is mame.exe, from here, I'm going to just use my cursor and we're going to go to General Settings. From here, we can go to Input Assignments and Player 1 Controls, and at the top, we're going to see Player 1 Up. If I double left click, then press up on my D-pad, and the same for down, same for left, and right. And we're also going to want to put some action buttons in place. So player 1 button 1, I'm going to map out as my A button. And just map out a few action buttons. Most arcade games, old school games, would only have 2, maybe 3 or 4 action buttons. So just make sure you do a few of these. Once you've done this, what we need to do is scroll right to the bottom. And from here, we're going to go to other controls. And just here, we can map out one player start. So I'm going to double left click, press start on my controller, and then coin 1, which is going to activate the game and give us some credits. If I scroll to the bottom, return to previous menu, and save settings. And once you've done that, we can literally exit. And if we now go back into GameEx, and if I go to open up the same game again, now everything is working perfect for me. So my select button is acting as the coin button, and my start button is going to literally start the game. Okay, so something else we can do with GameEx Arcade Edition is actually add new themes. Now, this is slightly different to how you apply new themes with the standard or regular GameEx. So first of all, what we're going to do is go back to the GameEx.com website, download themes, and under themes, you'll notice that there's particular and specifically tailor-made themes exclusively for GameEx Arcade Edition. So it's literally just a case of going into each one of these and downloading the zip files. I've already downloaded this one, and another one which I have downloaded is the GameEx Arcade Draconis theme. So there's likely more of these themes designed especially for Arcade Edition. So I'm going to show you how to actually install these themes. Like I say, it's different than the regular GameEx. So what we're going to do first is go into the Arcade folder, GameEx Arcade Edition, and both of those folders were originally in zip folders. What I did was just extracted them, and we're going to put those into the themes folder. Now, as you can see, we've only got one theme here for Arcade Edition, so we're going to pop those inside, and we next up got to open up a .ini. Let me show you how to do this. We're going to go into the config folder, and from here we're going to go and find GameEx.ini. Open this one up. Now, the easiest way to do this to find the line of text that we need is press Ctrl and F together, and this is going to open up a little search bar at the top of Notepad. You can either type in theme equals default, and if you then press enter, that's going to bring you down to the section that we want. Now, the way to do this to apply new themes within GameEx Arcade Edition is literally take away default minus default and leave theme equals. Now, if we go back into the themes folder, which is just here, what we need to do is literally type in the name of the new theme that you want. So we need to be making sure that this is utterly case sensitive. So we're going to start off with, say, Draconis. So just type in Draconis, and then go at the file, and then down to save. And if we open up GameEx, and as you can see there, totally a new layout. Now if I go into that .ini notepad document, if I then take away Draconis and I replace this with the other theme I've got, so it's going to say theme equals duality. Just remember to go to File and Save, and if we open up GameEx again,
Intruder alert, intruder alert. Coins detected in the humanoid must not escape. Destroy the humanoid.
now if you're planning on installing the duality theme, which I've just put on, just be sure that this particular theme is got a computer font.ttf. What you need to do is install this. If you double left click on it and install, for me I've already installed it, but I'm going to replace it. Just press yes on this. And once it's been installed, then you can go ahead and configure your .ini file for this duality theme to appear. Okay, so let me show you something else. This is obviously going to be for arcade cabinets, that type of thing. So we're going to make this look as good as possible. If we go back to the arcade folder, GameEx Arcade Edition, we're going to open up the setup wizard again. So if we just scroll down, and I might actually remind you, if you want to make a shortcut of this so you don't have to keep going through the folder every time, it's just a case of right clicking on it, show more options, and send to desktop create shortcut. So that's how you do it. So let's open up setup wizard again, and what we're going to do this time is go to display settings, and under display settings we can actually make the front end itself display with scanlines. So under processing effects, post process scanlines, by default this is disabled. If we enable this and literally just close out and open up GameEx again.
Intruder alert, intruder alert. Coins detected in the humanoid must not escape. Destroy the humanoid.
And as you can see, we've now got scanlines. Now from time to time, when you close out a GameEx, if you go to reopen it, it might not open. The reason this is because sometimes when closing GameEx Arcade Edition, or even the Standard Edition, is that it don't completely close down. So in order to sort this issue out, just press Ctrl, Alt and Delete on your keyboard. Open up Task Manager. Now under your background processes, if we just scroll down, you'll likely find GameEx just here. So for example, I've just closed this one down and it's still processing, it's still running. It shouldn't be, but it is. So if I right click on it, end task, and now if I go to open up GameEx Arcade Edition again, it's going to open up straight away.
Alert. Coins detected in the humanoid must not escape.
Now something else specific for this edition of GameEx is resolution. So at the start of the video, we looked at the GameEx Arcade Edition specifications, what it comes with, and of course it's tailored for arcade cabinets. So if we take a look under display settings, X and Y resolutions, you'll see it says 800 by 600. If we go to don't switch resolution, it says GameEx won't change resolution. If you want to set a different resolution, set resolution, and then we can simply put this to something like 1920 by 1080, which is obviously 1080p. So just make sure that once you've done this, we close out and let's just open up again.
Intruder alert, intruder alert. Noise detected in pocket. The humanoid must not escape. Destroy the humanoid.
Now for me, this has totally changed resolution. Now something else in the setup wizard under display settings, if you're planning to use GameEx Arcade Edition on a different type of monitor, we got the option here to rotate the display. So if I go to rotate display, we put this cocktail, which is obviously a cocktail cabinet, and I'm going to set the X and A resolutions back to the original settings, which was 800 by 600. And if I then go at don't switch resolution, GameEx won't change resolution. And now if I go back into Arcade Edition again, and as you can see, if you're going to be using a cocktail cabinet, then we've now got the display, which is the opposite way around. Now for different types of controllers to use with GameEx Arcade Edition, if we go down to input settings, we got settings here in order to use something like a trackball as your main controller. So if you're planning on using a trackball, then just go to trackball support and switch this one to yes. And if you're having any issues with your controllers connecting at all, just go up to gamepad device to use and just make sure your primary controller is selected. So in my case, my Xbox controller displays as the Bluetooth LEX input. And similar to trackball, if you're using a slick stick or iPack, then just make sure under enable slick stick and iPack are actually set to yes. Now we've got all these new video settings for our arcade display, but we also need to set these up within MAME itself. So if we go into emulation, emulators, MAME, and if we open up MAME itself, we can actually play around with video settings in here. If we go down to general settings, for example, if you want to change it to a cocktail or a vertical look when we open up games using GameEx, if we go to advanced options, what we're going to do from here is actually use the rotation options. So we can flip X, flip Y, and so on. So that's the way to open up your main games in the same display as the front end itself for, say, a cocktail cabinet. And just remember, I've got a separate dedicated MAME emulation setup guide, and I'll leave the link in my description. So for applying video filters such as scanlines, which is going to look really good alongside having GameEx as well, then you can check out in that video how to set all that up. And one final thing, as this setup guide is really aimed at arcade machines or people who want to build an arcade machine, we also got the ability here to add marquee displays. If we open up the setup wizard again, marquee display, just make sure enable marquee display is on yes. And just here beneath it, pad left, pad right, pad top, pad bottom, you can actually change how your marquees display. Just remember, if you're going to be doing this, you'll quite likely need to go to display settings afterwards and make sure that run on secondary monitor is switched over to yes. Anyways, that's it for today's GameEx Arcade Edition. So definitely an easy front end to set up. In comparison to the regular or standard GameEx, which I did yesterday. A lot less options, and this front end obviously gets you straight into arcades gaming. It's got particular options which are going to appeal to a lot of people, especially building arcade cabinets, especially the ability to flip our screen around to vertical displays, that type of thing. Anyways, if you didn't watch yesterday's video and you fancy something a little bit more comprehensive with GameEx, such as radio and film playback, check out that one. And anyways, hit notifications and subscribe if you liked the video today. Also, join me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. But until next time, stay retro.